Joining us now with more on the legacy that Charlie Kirk leaves behind and where the conservative movement goes from here, Turning Point USA speaker Ian Haworth. Ian, I know it's been an incredibly difficult week for you. And I want to ask you, as you've started to process this and started to look forward, and I know that you're doing that, do you believe that schools, and is there a fear there that schools will use this as an excuse to cancel conservative events going forward, and that will actually hinder the kind of conversation that Charlie was so effective at having?
Absolutely. I mean, if we set aside the impact that Charlie Kirk undoubtedly had on the country and certainly the conservative movement and the rise of MAGA and all of these political, cultural issues, we look at the core of what he was doing is he was proving that it is okay to be a proud conservative on college campuses. And Charlie Kirk would travel the country and speak at various colleges, and with Turning Point USA and YAF, I would do the same on a much smaller scale, but I would do the same. And the problem is that you see that these campuses have become a hotbed of all of the supposed stereotypes that are all too real when we actually look at the college campuses. And the battle isn't just actually having that event, it is getting permission from the college to have that event. I don't want to say it's all colleges, but the vast majority simply don't want the hassle. They don't want the hassle from their own students. They don't want the hassle from activists in their own community. And you add political bias in there, and it becomes incredibly difficult for a conservative to come on campus and say basic things like America is a good thing for the world. And so this is why it's so important for conservatives to look to the future and look to maintain the momentum that Charlie Kirk almost single-handedly built over several years. Because if we allow people like this horrific murderer to get what they wanted, which is to force conservatives off campus, then they win long term. And I think to respect his legacy, we have to maintain a presence. We have to maintain his shameless desire to promote conservatism in front of people, because otherwise, what's the point?
Ian, to continue that point, I've spoken to some young conservative television correspondents, television hosts who have said, obviously, they are devastated as they were so inspired by Charlie, but at the same time, they said they're terrified and they know how important it is to carry on his work, his messages through their own voice, through their own platforms, but some of them truly are genuinely terrified. What would you tell them?
I mean, first, I would say I completely understand. I mean, I have 100 times fewer followers than Charlie Kirk, and I would get death threats for going on campus. I would need armed security on campus. I had one speech at the University of Kentucky where armed police had to escort students home because they were being followed and harassed by pro-Hamas lunatics. This is the reality of being a conservative on campus. And quite often when the events happen, we get some kind of eyeballs on the issue, but the cameras go away and the issues stay. And so I think it's completely reasonable, completely legitimate to be afraid, but people have to understand that this goes beyond even the assassination of Charlie Kirk on college campuses. This goes to the heart of a deep rot in American academia that is a generational fight that Charlie Kirk was fighting against. It was a generational battle he was fighting by essentially bringing an entire new generation of young Americans to the conservative movement. We have to look at this as a generational battle.
Ian, as part of that, is part of that fight intellectual diversity within college faculty and administration? Because right now there absolutely is none.
Absolutely, because it rots from the head in this case. And to some extent, though, I do hold conservatives accountable for this problem, because a lot of conservatives didn't want to get involved in the culture war. They didn't want to fight for institutions. Education is not the only institution in America that has been dominated by leftists, and it did not happen overnight. It happened because leftists are willing to play the 10, 20, 30-year-long game to actually take control of these institutions and then reap the horrific rewards they think they're going to reap now. And this is why conservatives need to be fighting, again, the long game to take control back. And that means conservative professors who maybe have kept the politics to the side in the past, they need to stand up proudly, because if they don't, their students won't.
Yeah, and I always think, Ian, such a great point there. Going to college is really about learning about how other people think, respecting their viewpoints, and then discovering why you believe what you believe, rather than trying to be bullied into group think. And I hope that we're able to get back to that. All right. Ian Haworth, thank you so much.
Thank you.